Each other's company. Hate to cut off all the good conversation, but we've asked Phil to come a long way, so we want to make sure he has opportunity to say what he wants to say. We're grateful for he and Cheryl being here, and I think most everyone was here last night, so you know the kind of things that we have in store, and very excited about it. At this time, just ask Scott if he would lead us in a prayer, and then we'll just turn it over to Phil.
Father, we're so thankful for this amazing day that you've given to us.
All right, good afternoon. Good to see everybody today. If you allow me to begin with this thought, God bless you. When it comes to being a parent, in any circumstance, that's a challenge. But when you want to be a godly parent, that's another level. That has its own challenges. And I think it's very important that we always remember, and I know you get this, but we've got to be reminded of this. We're asking more of our children than other parents are asking. We're asking them to look beyond the here and now. And that's our faith, but it's not quite their faith yet, so we are challenging them to look. If you remember in Hebrews chapter 11, all those great men and women of faith, all of them had one thing in common. They may have grown up in different times, had different challenges, different enemies, but they all had this in common. Every single one of them was looking to a better city whose builder and creator was God. They could all gone back to where they came from, but they were looking to something better. I can't help but think of Moses' parents. I mean, you talk about how desperate are you when you put your child up for adoption. And that's the best option you got because the king is killing infants. But they found a way. And boy, I tell you what, Amram and Jochebed must have been sharp people because I'm not one who thinks they just put him in the river and just said, okay, let's see what happens. I think they had that planned out. He's going to float, he's going to catch his current, and he's going to end up down here in front of Pharaoh's daughter, and she doesn't have any kids, and if that baby cries, she's going to have a heart. I mean, I'm just thinking, this is how a mother's churning. And then here's what you're going to do. Here's what you're going to do, Miriam. You got to be nearby. So you're hiding, you know? And then they teach him. And they're asking him to look. That's hard. Because he grows up in the king's house, with the king's treasures, with the king's luxuries. But we're asking him to look. It took 40 years, but it happened. I hope they were around to see it, don't you? I know they weren't there when he came back 40 years later. At least I would assume they weren't, maybe, you know. But they were asking a lot. And it made a difference, right? So always keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. We're asking a lot of them. And I preface that to get into what I want to talk about today, and it has to deal with technology. When I was taken off to school, all right, this is 1986, only a couple of years ago. I'm here to leave off to school. I load up my car, and I'm driving from Lubbock, Texas, all the way down to Temple Terrace, all by myself, all right? And I was ready, man. I had everything ready to roll, and when I was getting in that car, you would have thought I was getting in there by myself, but I wasn't. Although my mom wasn't going, my dad couldn't go. I can still see my mom crying on the front porch as I waved. I had a big smile. I was ready to roll. But I had somebody else in the car with me, somebody you may have heard of, Rand McNally. Remember Rand? Yeah, the old map book. Yeah, I wasn't going by myself, and I heard flip through the book. I'd go from Texas to Mississippi. You know, let's look at Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. You know, and I made it was me and Rand. Well, today I don't use Rand anymore. I got maps. In fact, Cheryl and I went and sat down at Blaze Pizza to grab a quick eat, and I wait before we eat. How far is it, church building? Oh, 8 minutes. Perfect. Isn't technology amazing? And now we don't even remember street names because it's always telling us where to turn. If somebody said, hey, was that Preston Street? You go, I don't know. I just turned where it said turn. We don't even think of it. Technology is such a part of our life. And that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. At one time, microwaves were the new technology. I don't see anybody getting upset about microwaves. Anybody want to go back to, no. Just in the same way, I love technology when you consider it from the standpoint that, well, people use it today, and they use it a lot. In fact, let me plug this in. Speaking of technology, it's not going to work unless you use it correctly. But anybody here on Facebook? Anybody on Facebook? I like Facebook. And I love it, especially when my friends use Facebook, because they post pictures that I can laugh at. That's Katie Birch, ladies and gentlemen. She is now working with us at camp, but she's not alone. We are sharp dressers at camp. There's old Kyle Pearson. So if you ever need somebody to look like Starsky and Hutch, he's your guy. All right? And he's married to a fun woman. And so hey, if you're going to post it, I'm going to laugh at it. Isn't that fun, right? There's so many great, good things about technology. And we're able to keep in touch with people. We're able to see their kids grow up. We're able to experience their wonderful achievements and celebrate with them. And we're able to cry with them, all because of technology. It's great. But in reality, this is what you mostly see, right? This is indeed the modern family. We've been to Disney World. It's a fun place to go. And when you're sitting in one of those fun Disney restaurants and you look across and you see a family all on their phones, you're just like, what are you thinking? But really, should we even be on our phones if we're just at the Red Lobster when we're sitting with our family? We're disconnected. We had a bunch of the students over at our house this last Wednesday night, including Bree. We had all the seniors over, so Bree came over and we were just talking about things. And that was one of the things that the girls all complained about. Even when you go on dates or you go sit, they're on their phones. What's happened to us? Well, here's the deal. What has happened to us is by design. By design. What we need to know and understand about technology is that phone usage is going up, and it's not by accident. Back before the pandemic, if you were to look at the average time somebody would spend on their phone, it would be anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. COVID led us to screens, didn't it? It pushed us all to screens, so much so that now the average teen will spend 8+ hours a day on a screen. When I was growing up, or when you were growing up, anybody remember preachers having a cow about televisions? I mean, you hear that? Oh, you're watching the television. Oh, it's going to rot your mind. Oh, you heard of that, I mean, wouldn't that be great if that's all we had now? But what we've done with the television is we've actually picked it up and put it on our wrist, or we put it in our hand so we can take a screen with us wherever we go. And it comes with its blessings, but it also comes with its curses. At this rate, the average person, especially a teen, will spend 120 hours a month on a screen. College students now, 4 to 5 hours and 5 minutes a day is the average if they are not online learning. If it's online learning or if it's the idea of a class, then that's going to go way up. 90% of what most people do with their phones is what? Social media. It isn't exactly education. Anybody ever looked at your phone? Does your iPhone tell you where you've been spending your time? Does it ever come up on that? I get all excited when education or news is a little bigger. I say, yeah. I wish it gave me more credit for ESPN than it does. But hey, come on. But then you realize, wow, I was on Instagram that long? I was on that long? At this rate, the average person will spend more than 6 years of their life on the screen. And let me qualify this. This isn't 6 awake years, like, your normal awake hours. No, this is 6 full years. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Years. The average person will probably spend on their phone before they die. Staggering. But it's not by accident, like I said. Technology is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Do you know Steve Jobs wouldn't let his kids have an iPhone or a pad? Did you know that? Did you know many in the high-tech industry do not want their kids on the screens even though it's their livelihood and that's what they make? Because here's what they know. They know they've been designed to be addictive. All right, I'm going to show my age a little bit again. Anybody remember Sports Illustrated, the magazine? You know, especially the Super Bowl edition when the Cowboys were actually good. You know, and you would sit there and flip through and read and read and read, and eventually you got to the end, right? It ended. And you went, oh man, now I gotta wait a whole other week. You know, if it was a weekly or sometimes it's a monthly, oh, I gotta wait a whole month. Not anymore. Not anymore. You go to a news feed and what happens? It never, ever, ever ends. Well, why is that? Because they know if they keep throwing content at you, you will stay there longer. Notices. The notice is something that's always going to jump out at you. My wife is amazing. She is one of those people that can have 1,200 emails unopened, and it says 1,200. Anybody else like that? A few of you are like that? I don't understand you people. I get one ding and I'm like, oh, I gotta go this, you know. It's like something's been left undone. I got a checklist. I gotta knock it out, you know. I mean, it just and that's the point. There's always going to be an appeal. That's why it's there. It wants you to notice. It wants you to go to it, and then you have numerous pages per window. Let me show you this real quick. This is our camp. This is our camp Facebook page. All right. And if you'll notice, what you want to do when you go to the camp Facebook page, well, let's just see what's new here. Well, look what Facebook did to me. It gave me, first of all, hey, by the way, Phil, here's your other friends who might be members that you might want to look at. Here's some other people you might suggest here. Oh, and by the way, here's some notices of some other places you've been. Just in case you hadn't been there, there's all this new content. And then there's this, that, and the other. And here's what happens to us. You go look at one thing for 1 minute, and what happens? 2 hours later, you're going, what happened? How did I get pulled away? Well, that's what it's designed to do. And so you also have the idea of a push notification. That is going to be that alert. To always get your attention to go back to it. And here's the way most apps are designed, especially your social media apps. They appeal to outrage. And here's what they know. You get enough people together talking amongst themselves, eventually somebody is going to post something somebody doesn't like, right? And then you can't let it go because you got to go post and give your opinion, and then this person's got to give their opinion, and then there goes the thread, right? Anybody ever got on your phone or looked at social media or done something and just got irate at what you saw? And then you take it to somebody else, and I'm going to post on this later. Well, that's what it wants us to do. It's like news. News is intended to grab your attention because there's bad things out there. And there's a lust for it. It just gets us. And just out of curiosity, anybody here ever seen a good political debate on social media? Have you ever known anyone to ever go, you are so right, I have totally changed my mind? No. Because it hooks us. And here's what you got to know. The advertisers are choosing the schemes. The advertisers are actually sitting down at the table with the high-tech companies on how can I get this product in front of people more. So here's what I need you to do. Tristan Harrison, his TED Talk on this very subject, he was an engineer in the Silicon Valley for many years. You probably also saw him if you watched The Social Dilemma. He's one of the interviews in that story. He said the CEO of Netflix said this, quote, our greatest competition is Facebook, YouTube, and sleep. Anybody ever YouTube binge? You ever notice that? Even when you're trying to, forgive me, I like Blue Bloods. That's the Waltons of our generation, right? It's the Waltons of our generation. It's so hard to immediately after an episode ends and you got 5, 4, 3, the next one, and it's like once it starts, oh, I gotta watch it now, right? Well, it's designed that way. It's designed that way to hook us, to grab our attention, because people are enticed to hang around even longer than they want. And here's the deal. Think of it like this. This is a powerful illustration, I know. But it's like a cigarette. And the nicotine hooks us. And we can't stop with just one. It's actually that kind of addiction. Now, how do you know if you're an addict? Well, you might be an addict if you panic without it. You ever gone off without your phone, left it somewhere, and had a cow? You know, oh, I can't believe it. What am I going to do? I'm going to get in touch. What am I going to do? You know, isn't it hard to believe that we actually lived before phones? My kids find that so hard to believe. Well, how'd you communicate? What did you do? You know, oh, I went to a crazy place this last week. It was really cool. I got to go to the Masters. And Joe Hammondtree took me. It was an awesome experience. But it's very clear, no phones are allowed. No phones. You are not to have a phone there at all. You will lose your badge, and whoever that badge belonged to, whether it's you or somebody else, they lose those privileges. I mean, they're very serious about it. And I was like, man, what am I going to do if we get split up? It actually hit me. I don't even wear a watch anymore. I got my phone. So I had to go to Cheryl. Cheryl, you got a spare watch? I wore a women's watch all day just in case we got lost. And Joe's like, okay, if you ever get lost, go back to this tree and you stand here and we'll meet here at the top of the hour. And I'm like, oh, how inconvenient, you know? I got to use a watch. Well, how'd we survive? Well, we made do, didn't we? And we survived without them. We survived without them. But now we panic. We panic. Everything's on our phone. You ever got a phantom pulse? You ever got that feeling you thought it rang or you felt? I used to, when I was in the news business, I actually had 2 cell phones. I had a Nextel and a flip phone, and I remember I always had it in my pocket. It was always, and I always kept it on vibrate just in case you were somewhere, you didn't want going off, and so it would just vibrate in my phone. I can remember the first time I was standing somewhere and I went, and I reached down, and there was nothing in my pocket. It's like, what is going on here? And every now and then I'll get that vibration. It's like, what has happened to me? You know? But it's the idea of always knowing it's a part of your life when it's not there. Your body reacts. You ever checked it late at night? Just gotta check it, look at it, see who's up. Have you ever been on it while you've been eating with others? Can I just say that's about one of the rudest things we can do? But it's become such a part of our culture that we don't even think about it anymore. You might be an addict if you got tech neck. How's my neck hurting? And it is kind of funny. All of us do this. Nobody does this. You know, that would certainly be easier on your neck. But now I got to hold my hand up. And so we walk like this all day long, looking around, you know. Well, tech neck, it's actually something chiropractors and doctors have to deal with. You're texting or you're surfing while driving. Can you imagine? To not only risk your life, but to risk your family's life or to risk the life of the others just because you heard a notification on your phone. Or you might be an addict if somebody's talked to you about it. Here's the deal, folks. If we're really honest, most of us are addicts, one way or another. Because it's designed to be addictive. You don't just go and puff on cigarettes all day and not expect to get addicted, right? Same thing with technology. And the point is, it's been designed that way. There's over 350 million subscribers to Fortnite. This is just one video game that's consuming our children. It's a big deal. But there's actually been stories of children who actually sat on a couch for 12 hours and literally soiled themselves than to get up and go to the bathroom because they were into a game. It consumes us. It's consuming our children. And what they know is they can get children on it. They can get them to stay. And here's what we're seeing. Schools are actually warning parents of behavioral problems due to too much screens and too many games like Fortnite. Now, if your kid's on Fortnite, not all Fortnite's bad, all right? I'm not one of those guys. But it's just an example of it. There's online predators in many of these apps. And we need to grasp and understand that the online predators are out there looking for our children. And children are prone to be more like bullies or to be bullied and to be less social. Isn't it ironic that social media has made us less social? There's some irony in that. But it's happened. And it's changing our children. So much so that here's what we're seeing in kids today. We're seeing anxiety at crazy levels. Every year at camp, first thing you have to do, if you come with medication, you got to go turn it in to the nurse. 25% of our kids are on anxiety medicine that come to camp. 25% are on medication for anxiety. Almost half the kids are on medication for something. It's mind-boggling. This also includes Prozac, some of your heavy drugs. It's amazing what kids are on that are dealing with anxiety, mood swings, isolation. One of the biggest challenges we're seeing with a lot of kids right now is that they are isolated and they're willing to hide away in their rooms. They'll hide away even in their dorm rooms in college. How do we get them out? They're stuck on a screen. And because they're on the screen, they're becoming less social and they don't know how to communicate. Therefore, they don't know how to talk to others. When Cheryl and I were sitting there with the girls the other night, we just asked, okay, how's it with boys? How do they ask you on dates? Guys don't talk. They may text you. They may try to get to know you through social media, exchanging things, but it's the inability to talk. And I've seen that in such a big way with kids at camp. Kid come in here at camp and we have no phones. It's a no phone policy. It is a screen-free zone. It's the best week of the year, if nothing else for that. But literally kids, they don't know what to do. They don't. And they will lie through their teeth to you. And I don't hold them totally accountable for that. Because we've had kids actually turn in dummy phones. It wasn't their real phone, it was a dummy phone, and they kept their real phone in their bag, and guess who they're texting? Mom and Dad. Because the parents are so addicted and have to have that constant communication, they encourage their children to lie. Isn't that crazy? But what they're actually doing is making the children less social, and the inability to communicate one-on-one is being so greatly impaired by the phone that I'm pretty sure that before too long, there's going to be a lot of people that don't even have to talk through the week to function. Lower attention spans, because we always got to be excited, and then it greatly leads to narcissism. Here's one of the greatest challenges with kids. They're looking for more approval from the likes on social media than from the approval of a parent or a figure in their life that greatly loves them and cares for them. How many likes did I get? Okay, who didn't like me? Wait, this is about me. And it's changing. And here's the worst part about it. We put it in their hands. Anybody here priced a phone recently? You know, the newest iPhones are like $1,000. I mean, can you imagine a 6-year-old? Here's $1,000. Just carry that around. But we put the phone in their hand. That's a lot of money. And if you put it in there without safeguards, you put it in there without restrictions, you put it in there without good parental oversight, the irony is we're actually leading them to a lot of these challenges. And here's the deal. The tech companies know this. You'll notice I just put various sources. This is just out there everywhere. I don't have to just go and find one CNN article or one pediatric article. I mean, this is everywhere. They know that. But we're still doing it like crazy. This was an interesting survey taken by AT&T Internet. Keep calm, internet on. And there's the question they asked people, what would you give up to have internet service? All right? So if you could have internet service and had to give up something, what would you be willing to give up? 87% said, well, I'd give up chocolate. Who are these people? Chocolate? Are you kidding me? Man, can't imagine. No, I'd give it up. They'd have internet? Oh, I'd give up chocolate. 40% said they'd give up eyesight in one eye. Well, you know, the pirate looks in. Early mateys. I got me internet. Really? 36% said they would give up hair. For some of us, that may not be a big deal. 30% said they'd give up a finger. All right, you're going to give up a finger. Make sure it's the ring finger on the hand that's not predominant. I'm just giving you a suggestion. If that's how bad this is going to go. 29% would give up the sense of taste. 23% would give up a dream job. 19% would give up love. And 16%, I'd give up human interaction. Well, chances are they already have. Isn't that crazy? And even though that's just a survey, someone would even say that? But what we see is that's actually a reality. So much so that the American Academy of Pediatrics, this is not the American Academy of Preachers. Let me make sure I get that clear. It isn't me. It isn't the old curmudgeon, don't get on my lawn kind of guy. This is the American Academy of Pediatrics. They say no child should even be on a screen at all through the first year and a half. No screens at all. Zip, zero, none. From 18 months to 3 years, 20 to 30 minutes max. Any screen. Any screen. Use a book, use games, use other means of interaction because they're developing, their bodies are developing in so many ways. Don't just default to a screen. From 3 to 5 years, 1 hour max. 1 hour max. That's plenty of screen time. And then from 6 years and up, it needs to be greatly limited. Greatly, greatly limited. Here's the challenge, and I started with this. That's not very popular. That's not very popular. Because the screen is such a part of our life now, it's hard to say, well, no, we're going to limit it. No, only a 30-minute show, and then you need to go out and play. Because for most of us, it's such a part of our life, it's almost kind of like the full-time babysitter as well. You ever been out to eat with families that they just come loaded for bear with the screens and just sit down there? And maybe there's a good need for that. Maybe their child is a little autistic. Maybe they're working through something. That's great. I understand. But that's a dangerous place to be if that's the first place we're always going to go. No screens in the bedroom, says the American Academy of Pediatrics. No screens at all for any age. No screens at the dinner table. That's time for the families to talk to one another. No screens before at least having 1 hour of play and exercise. Did y'all know that physical activity among kids is becoming a huge issue? We're seeing it. We're seeing it. Give you another camp story. We'll have kids that are high school age that don't know how to play kickball. One of our counselors one year just couldn't take it anymore. When a kid got up there and went, what am I supposed to do? Well, you kick it and run. He goes, he kicked it and he ran left. He said, who's your daddy. Your dad has failed you as a father. Oh, okay, hold on. I get it. Yeah, I get it. But you're just like, oh my word. The American Academy of Pediatrics says you got to play, and parents have got to be role models, because here's the deal. Most of our kids emulate us when it comes to almost everything, including the screen. You know, the Bible had some warnings about devices in our hands. I'll go ahead and tell you, this is out of context a little. I know that they didn't have screens in the days of Micah and Isaiah, but listen to this. Woe to those who devise wickedness and work evil on their beds. When the morning dawns, they perform it because it's in the power of their hand. It would kind of fit, wouldn't it? Isaiah 2:8, their land is filled with idols. They bow down to the work of their hands, to what their fingers have made. The point is, most of the things that consume us in a negative way, we created it. We made it. You know, maybe it was an apple that got Eve. I had somebody send this to me the first time I shared these thoughts. You know, carefully, you might spend all your time on it. It could get you. Well, that's so true. Genesis 11. All right, for just time's sake, I'll just tell you the story. This is the story of the Tower of Babel. Anybody know why God was so upset with the Tower of Babel? Anybody know what made him so mad? Well, when they got together, they came together unified, but this unification wasn't good, because their intent was to defy God. And when you go back and you look at the passage in 11 verse 4, they're saying, we must do this together, lest we be separated through all the earth. That was God's command. Multiply, spread across the earth. Fill the earth. Don't stay in one place. And so when man was all together in one place, where everybody in the world was in your ear and everybody in the world was together, it wasn't good. Because it meant everybody in the world had a say. Everybody in the world had an equal thought. And everybody together. The intent was to defy God. And so for their own good, he separated them. For their own good, he confused their language to where they couldn't communicate. Folks, if you really think about it, for the first time since Babel, the whole world's been back together in one place. Because the whole world is now at our fingertips in an instant. Crazy. That means the whole world can get into our kids' ears, in their minds, to tell them what pretty is, to tell them what good is, to tell them what love is, to tell them what isn't wrong. And it's affecting us. It's changing us. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to just real quick, okay, for time's sake, I want to leave us some time for discussion. I'm going to go in to a list of my do's and don'ts. And let me just qualify this. This is very opinionated, okay? All right, this is my opinion on some of these things. I hope you agree with most of them, but nonetheless, this is my opinion, all right? I just want that out there. You're not going to go to a verse that's going to say, oh, there it is, all right? But this is my opinion, and it comes from just what I've experienced in working with kids, the challenges we had with our own children, and really what I'm seeing in college students today as well, all right? So I'm just qualifying that. So let me just share with you things on my list. No kid at all should have a phone before the 8th grade. And the only reason, in my opinion, they should get a phone is so that they can communicate directly with you if they need to, or there's another educational or true life situation that demands it. It should not be for social media. It should not be for just blatant interaction with their friends. Because we don't have the emotional stability to handle it at that age. All right? Our kids, and I'm a mean dad, Our kids didn't get phones until they were 16, and that was hard. And I knew I was asking a lot of them. Because I knew even a lot of their friends at church had phones, but we were homeschooling, so when like you needed to call or do anything, we had your back, and we encouraged communication and spending time with lots of friends and other different means. And so that was just kind of our rule. But when you started driving, okay, I'll give you a phone, but then there were restrictions and safeguards in place on the phone in the way it was used. Okay, and what's fun today is, like I said last night, we have Find My Friends. And the kids are tracking us as much as we're tracking them. That's a great app, by the way. And don't turn it off. Don't turn it off. But that's our rule. Never, ever, ever, ever text and drive. And I've got to work on that myself. I've really got to work on that myself. And it's not so much about texting, it's just looking at it, because I have a hard time with notifications. That's a great weakness of mine. I was doing a teen weekend, and we were actually talking about these things. And I'd left my phone sitting on the Lord's table there as I was talking to the teens, and it kept vibrating. It was driving me crazy. It went on a few times. I finally went over and turned it off. I was like, who in the world is just bugging me? And when I got back to it, it was actually a group of preachers. Y'all know Kenny Moore, Don Truex, you know Ricky Jenkins, you know Roger Schaus, you know some of these guys. Those goobers were all sitting at home watching the Olympics. Well, I'm teaching kids, and they had this debate going. If they had their own bobsled team, who would be in the front, who would be in the back? Now that's fun. That's fun. I'm so glad I showed up late to that party because I wasn't in the bobsled. They decided I'd be a coach. I wouldn't be much help. All right. But I know I have a problem with notifications, texting and driving. No immodest clothing. We don't post it. We don't post it. Even if your family has different rules about certain things that you wear, that's okay. Leave it with your family. Don't be sharing it to the whole world. You wouldn't walk that way dressed into grandma's house, literally, would you? Then why do it on a screen? Because you just walked into anybody's house. No dark alleys. Here's the deal, parents. Your kids have seen porn if they've been on it long enough. Your sons have seen porn. And if you don't have some very strict regulations in place, it can quickly become addictive. This church down in Tampa has been meeting with all the men, and they were doing just a survey, just all the guys sitting together, and there's one of those quick surveys that you can put up on the screen. And they simply asked, one of the questions was, who here has seen porn in the last couple of weeks and is, or maybe struggling with it? 80% admitted it. And I think if most of us were honest, it'd be 80% anywhere you go. And here's what you got to know. The algorithm knows you're a male, knows your kid is a male, and knows certain things will make you stay longer. You got to be mindful of that. No private encounters. Cheryl and I were shocked when we were talking to the college students and one about it, and every single one of them was on some sort of dating app. And some of these dating apps are not Christian mingle apps. But Mr. Phil, I said, no. Why are you on that? Well, it's easy to do. It's easy to just look. Don't like anything that is in any way questionable because it reveals your heart. And all you're doing is adding to the intrigue by it. Please don't argue. Don't ever use a social media site to argue with others. If you got something you need to say, do it privately. Don't share fake news. Okay, now this is a pet peeve, all right? Being a news guy. If they're a blogger and they got the cure for cancer, there's a pretty good chance it isn't true. Hate to break that to you, all right? If they're a blogger and they're not a reputable news source and they've got inside information that nobody else has, there's a pretty good chance it it isn't true. Okay? Be careful of sharing fake news. And 2020 was not our friend. That was not our friend. All right? Now, again, I know the news business. I get it. There can be a slant, but they can be fired for sharing false information. Most people who are just randomly posting things can't. And don't use it as a time to criticize. I would also encourage you to avoid any political debate. It's not good. And this may surprise you. It's not a time to be preachy. Don't all of a sudden become sanctimonious and preachy to the whole world. All right? That doesn't come across good. That doesn't help us at all. You know, if somebody's doing something you don't like or you think's wrong, great. You need to talk to them privately. And can I just say something too? You're putting your elders in a bad spot by all the stuff we're posting all the time. What am I supposed to do with that? Am I supposed to just ignore it and let it go? All right? We need to be careful. And we need to just be careful of wasting our time with daily posts and being consumed by social media. Again, pure opinion. All right? This is my list. Okay? But at the same time, let's just think about how it can be used in a good way. All right? I know I've said a lot of negative things and thrown some things out there, and you haven't watched the Social Dilemma on Netflix. I would encourage you to do it. It just accentuates everything that we talked about. But it's technology that's going to be around, and our kids are going to have it. And I meant that. They're going to have to have them. I mean, even now you can't even go to a game with a paper ticket anymore. It's got to be on your phone. Oh, I was actually one of those guys that said, I can't figure it out. Oh, Dad, you're embarrassing me. Give me that. What? All right? I'm reaping what I sowed when I made fun of my grandmother not being able to program her VCR. It's all coming back on me now. All right? But it's a part of life. Phones are part of life, and it's going to be even greater. It's going to be pretty soon, you're not even going to carry a billfold with you at all. Everything's just going to be on your phone. That's probably where the world's headed, okay? So if it's going to be around, let's use it and use it well. So here's some suggestions that I have. Always use social media and anytime to share joy and gratitude, all right? We need to be the people of joy and the people who are able to show gratitude for the blessings in our life. And that is a great opportunity to do it. That is a great opportunity to share. Be an encouragement to others. Uplift them. Applaud them. And especially applaud your children. Every chance you get to applaud a teen or a child, applaud. In fact, I would just tell you, stand in the foyer when they come in and just give them a hand. God bless them. Right? You got to remember, we're asking a lot of them. And if they're going to camp, they're going to good things, they're going to things that are spiritual minded, applaud, and encourage. Speak with grace. Anybody, what does the word grace mean? Anybody know? What does it mean? Who's your preacher? He hadn't taught you about grace? Unmerited favor, right? That'd be an easy definition. It means to give somebody something they don't deserve. Give people what they don't deserve. Kindness. Be the people who say what needs to be shared to help change them from the inside out. You're always going to be able to teach people and reach people more with gracious words. And here's the deal. They may not deserve it. That's what makes it grace. Right? Promote good things. I tell you, if we could just get everybody in our churches who is on social media to promote the things that we're doing at church, we will immediately touch thousands of people instantly. Right? We need to do that. That's a great opportunity. In fact, do you notice most of your marketing now is through social media? Most marketing companies, they put most of their attention on social media and apps and not like on television the way it used to be, because that's where the people are. I tell you can use your phone to build stronger friendships easily. What a neat way to stay in touch with good people. And that's what we want our kids doing. That was important. And that's why when camp is over, at the very end of camp, get with your friends, share pictures, share numbers so that you can stay in touch. Encourage spiritual things. Seek to comfort and carry others' burdens when you hear about them. I tell you, GoFundMe in a good way that helps you learn about somebody's needs is a blessing. Hearing things that are going on to help others is like maximize educational resources. Tell you what, there's a great opportunity there if we would just use our phones for that purpose, to grow and to learn. What a neat way to even share the gospel and overcome the evil with good. What we also did with our kids is we wanted them to be surrounded by mentors, and I'll talk more about that in this last section, but I want their mentors staying in touch with them. And I tell you, one of the things that's been very powerful for us as parents is to know you had elders and elders' wives, deacons' wives, members in the congregation who are highly motivating them to just text to stay in touch with my children. It's the biggest thing in the world. And it's easy to do that. And then, you know what you might want to do? Have a fast. Go on a phone fast. Anybody been on a cruise? Maybe on a cruise? Oh, cruises are great. You can eat. Fine. There's ice cream free on the top. No, you know what the best part of a cruise is? Phone don't work. And if you go and buy the internet, shame on you. You're missing out on something that's awesome. I did not really think about that till we got on our first cruise together with our family. And I was like, this is amazing. Because my phone literally rings and beeps all the time. And I want to stay in touch with people. I want to help people. I want to be. But my kids need dad. And the last thing I want to do is to allow some artificial device, some machine, to keep me away from my kids. And so it might be good for us to consider a phone fast. I believe this is something we got to share. Because technology is hurting our children. Let's flip that script. Let's flip that script. Let's let it be a blessing, not a curse. And may it begin with us. Okay? All right, forgive me, I talked a little longer than I want. Thoughts, questions, comments, anything along these lines? Yes, sir.
I'll make one comment, and this might come across as an old guy, curmudgeon, get off my grass thing, but for me, Apple Watches, I've had one, I think it's a great thing, but they're so common now, and when notifications come on watches, for an older person who's used to a wristwatch, when someone's in a conversation with you and they are looking at their watch, even for a quick glance when the thing buzzes at you, that's an automatic negativity to the person that you're with.
Yeah.
And that you may not realize it, but it's a huge disjunct in that connection. It's a huge turnoff emotionally and psychologically. And it's just, for me, it's for people that would think about it and ignore it, it's rudeness. Now, that may be just me, but I would encourage those of us who are younger that don't ever use wristwatches for time and whatnot. But for an older person, when you're looking at your watch, it means I'd rather be somewhere else than talking to you. Just a comment.
No, I'm with you, man. I'll never be able to get my, probably won't. I can't go Dick Tracy. Isn't that crazy? It's reality now. It used to be just Dick Tracy. Because it's so hard for me. I confess, I'm Phil. I got a notification problem. You know, it bugs me. So I just got to get it away. But you're right, it does. It is rude. It's rude. Let's just be honest. It's rude. You know, yes, sir, Scott. Yeah.
So let's say by chance there's parents in the room who, you know, now the blinders have come off and they've been totally out of touch with what their child's been doing with the phone. How does that conversation go to try to put it in place to where it should be?
This is my suggestion. you sit down as a family and y'all watch The Social Dilemma together. And you sit down, and the news articles are easy to find. How Steve Jobs didn't want his kids on them. How most of your high-tech folks don't want their kids on them. And you look at that as a family, and you ask your kids, what do we need to do? I think it's important for all of us to be asking our kids, how do you feel? Feeling depressed? You feeling anxious? Because the reality is most of our kids are in a big way. And it was more than just what you felt when we were going to school. I was like, okay, who's in my first period? Well, I know anybody at lunch. You know, how am I going to do with this tomorrow? You know, well, that's just everyday anxiety. This anxiety is to another level. Who likes me? Who said something about me? I mean, this is a burden they're carrying. And so we need to have those conversations as a family. And I would encourage you parents, if you haven't sat down and looked through the history of your kids' phones and devices, you need to. And you need to be honest to talk about it. But that's where I would start. And I'd sit down and talk about it as a family. And you go first. Dad has a problem with this. I know it. I'm committing to you now. Here's what I'm planning to do. Who's in with me? Because I think if they can see us living without it, that'll help them. But again, we're asking them to do what no other family does, right? And that's hard, but that's where I would start. And then I would set some limits on it, especially if you know that there are some issues at play. Anybody here have a phone basket in your house? That when you walk in the door, that's where all the phones go? That's a good thing to keep around. You know, all phones go in there. You know,
What apps? You mentioned a couple of things as far as having on your children's phone to help you as a parent. What are some of those?
there are some safeguard apps. Most of your Apples, your phones now, can limit sensitive content. And so I would make sure all that's activated and on there. I would be mindful of just the apps that your kids are on. Snapchat is not their friend or yours. I'll just tell you that right now. Anything that stays up for a moment and then goes off into the, no, that's not good. I would want anything to hang around. Instagram needs to be greatly monitored. Here's what you need to do, parents. Go get your kids, if your kid's on Instagram, go to their Instagram account, all right, and get on there. Go to the search button. You know what I'm saying? The search button. When you get the search button, it's just going to bring up random sites that Instagram believes you might be interested in. And so anything that you've been on, or you've searched, or you've liked, tons of it's just going to come up. I'll confess to you on mine, I get into CrossFit, and so I follow some CrossFit sites, all right? Innocent enough when I'm following my gym. But what immediately comes up is all the girls of CrossFit or anything related to that. It knows I'm a guy, all right? And it clearly knows I'm a heterosexual guy. You know, it knows that about me. So it's going to try to throw anything. Golf, I like golf. That comes up. Dogs, I got lots of dog videos. I don't have enough of it. It comes up. But then again, it's always going to throw in something that might be new and enticing. And that's going to tell you what your kid's looking at. Or that's the algorithm on your kid right now. Does that make sense? And so anything that has that kind of content on it, you need to be very, very cautious of it. Now, all the kids are using Instagram now. They don't go to Facebook because we're on it. They run from Facebook because of the adults. But you also need to look. There are some apps out there. There's Guardian apps and others that you can put on devices for your kids. But the main thing, what I think you need to be doing is constantly getting their phone and looking at it. It'll give you their history, where they've been, and you can look on apps and figure out where they've been. And you need to know the apps that are on there. I also believe you need to be very careful about who they're text messaging. There's a lot of conversations there as well. Just be mindful. So, Yep.
Always know their password.
Oh,
Code.
yes, passwords. I think everybody at camp knows my password. I've had kids get on my phone. I've left it in golf carts. I mean, it's not very hard. 7790. You know, but the kids know. Cheryl knows. We all know our passwords. I think that's important. I think that's important too. You know, that shows you're an open book on those things. That's good. Thanks.
Yeah, modeling that kind of thing is key. You do it yourself. Then when you ask them for theirs,
Okay,
why not?
let's go.
That's right.
Let's swap. Yeah. That's a good question, Scott. I think you need to think about that as parents. You need to sit down and have those conversations. You need to definitely have those conversations. And here's the deal. If we're really honest, 90% of what we use our phone is really not that important in the grand scheme of things. Would that be fair? You know, that would be fair. So we're losing time. We're losing influence if it's not something real good. Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes kids might say it's my privacy. So, like, how can we navigate that? Like, I feel like these days, you know, I want to make sure things happen, and maybe sometimes I want to know too much, and I'll go and look, and then nobody does that. I'm like, you know, like, you should not do that. It's illegal. I'm 16. I don't even know if that's illegal, but probably that happens to many of, you know, parents. I don't know. And sometimes I just feel like I want to know exactly what happened.
I never believed in that with our kids. I would give them privacy if I knew it was something that was not going to harm them or it was something needed. But anything else, there was no such thing as privacy. And that's the way Cheryl and I.
I'm paying the bill.
Yeah, I'm paying the bills. You know, if you want the phone, this is the rules that come with it. You know, yeah, no, there's no privacy on that. You know, you need to change in your room, privacy. Yeah, that's good. That's what you need to go change your clothes. Good, I'll get all the privacy in the world. You know, but no, not with this. Not with anything I'm putting in your hand. No, that privacy doesn't exist in that. You know, and we don't do that. Not that privacy. No. Anything else? All right, y'all been great. Let's take 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about the teen year specifically. So thank y'all very much.